There are moments in history that look small on the surface. A question, a request, a sentence spoken in front of the right people at the right time. But underneath those moments, something far bigger is shifting. Structures that were never questioned begin to crack, and it usually starts with people who were never expected to speak. Zelophehad had 5 daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. No sons. In a system where inheritance flowed only through sons, that detail wasn't just personal, it was legal erasure. When he died in the wilderness, the assumption was simple. The line ends here. His name disappears. His portion dissolves into the wider family structure. Nothing to argue with, nothing to appeal. That was the rule. But rules only stay unchallenged until someone has enough courage to stand inside them and ask if they are actually just. Numbers 27:2 says, "They stood before Moses and Eleazar the priest and the leaders and the whole assembly at the entrance to the tent of meeting." That sentence hides how intense that moment actually was. Moses, the national leader; Eleazar, the priest; the elders, the legal authority; the entire congregation, the witnessing crowd. And 5 women walked into that space. Not quietly, not privately, not indirectly. They brought their case into the center of power. Verse 4 captures it. "Why should our father's name disappear? Give us property among our father's relatives." It wasn't emotional manipulation. It wasn't noise. It was clarity. They were essentially saying, this system does not account for us, and we are still here. And Moses does something rare for a leader under pressure. He doesn't rush to defend the system. He takes it to God, and God responds with something that should make every rigid structure uncomfortable. They are right. No hesitation. No rebuke. No spiritualized dismissal. Just correction. Then comes the shift that changes everything. If a man dies and leaves no son, transfer his inheritance to his daughter. Numbers 27:8. A single case becomes legislation. A moment becomes policy. A question becomes a future. And that's the part people miss. The daughters didn't just secure land. They expanded what was legally imaginable for every woman after them. This is how change often enters systems, not through rebellion, but through a refusal to accept invisibility as normal. Years later, a similar pattern shows up in a completely different setting. Meet Jade. She was a senior operations manager in a multinational company. Sharp, composed, and consistently underestimated in rooms that liked to believe they were merit-based. On paper, the organization was progressive. In reality, leadership had a shape, and that shape didn't look like her. Decisions were made informally after late meetings she wasn't always invited to. Feedback loops ran through networks she hadn't been socialized into. Confidence was often mistaken for competence, and familiarity for leadership potential. Jade noticed all of it early. Most people do. The difference is what they decide to do with that awareness. For years, she did what many high-performing people from overlooked backgrounds are trained to do: over-prepare, stay quiet, and let excellence speak for itself. It didn't. At least not in the way she expected. She was passed over once. Then again, the official feedback was always polite. Strong candidate, needs more visibility. Not quite ready for this level yet. That last line did something dangerous. It made readiness feel like personality rather than positioning. One evening, after another promotion cycle that didn't include her name, she sat in her car longer than usual. Not angry in an explosive way, just tired in a precise way. The kind of tired that comes from being consistently considered but not chosen. That night, something shifted. Not externally, internally. She stopped asking, "How do I prove I belong here?" and started asking, "Who decided this is what leadership is supposed to look like?" The question changed her posture. Within months, she began doing something simple but disruptive. She stopped shrinking her language in meetings. She stopped over-explaining decisions she already knew were correct. She started documenting outcomes instead of waiting for recognition. Then she did something even more uncomfortable, and she applied again. But this time, she didn't frame herself as someone asking for permission. She framed herself as someone presenting evidence. This time, she got the role. Not because the system suddenly became fair, but because she stopped negotiating with her own invisibility. 2 years later, 3 women in her department applied for similar leadership positions. They didn't all get in immediately, but something had already changed. The ceiling had been marked. Jade hadn't just entered leadership. She had changed the reference point for what leadership could look like in that space. That is what the daughters of Zelophehad did. They didn't just receive inheritance, they expanded inheritance. And that distinction matters, because some people think change is about winning inside a system. Sometimes it's about quietly adjusting the boundaries of the system itself. What makes their story even more striking is how they approached it. No apology language, no self-disqualification, no shrinking. They stood, they spoke, they asked, and they were affirmed. Proverbs 31:8 says, "Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves." But here, these daughters speak for themselves, and in doing so, unintentionally become a model for everyone who would come after them. There's something else worth noticing. They didn't go alone. 5 voices, 5 witnesses, 5 people who could confirm this wasn't imagination or entitlement. It was a shared reality. Some battles are too heavy for a single voice because the weight of being dismissed multiplies in isolation. So they stood together, and that matters, because collective courage carries further than individual bravery ever will. The uncomfortable question this story leaves behind is simple. What have you accepted as not for people like you simply because no one around you challenged it first? And what would happen if you became the first contradiction to that rule? Not aggressively, not performatively, just clearly. Because sometimes the system doesn't need to be destroyed. It just needs to be interrupted. Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, Tirzah. 5 names that didn't just receive land. 5 names that redefined who land could belong to. And maybe the real question is whether you are willing to speak in a way that makes space for someone who is still coming after you. If something in this story stayed with you and if it's still sitting somewhere in your chest, that's not an accident. That's the thing we don't scroll past. Hit like, not as a reflex, but as a marker, because somewhere out there, a witness is still looking for proof that their story isn't over. And this might be how they find it. Pass it to that friend, the one whose testimony is still being written, the one who hasn't heard the scripture told this way before. And subscribe to Bible Rebooted. We don't come here to perform. We come here to tell the truth and to hand you the evidence that you were never as far gone as it felt. Every story is evidence. It's your boy Kairos Ade signing out. Like, subscribe, and stream the music.
You are not forgotten. Tried to believe in you one last time. Another rejection, another betrayal. The friends I thought was solid turned to vapor and to dust. Love I tried to build collapsed from termites of distrust. God, what's the point of waking to a new heartbreak design? God, where's the famous light at the end? It feels like that's a lie. Where are you, God? In this quiet, in the sake, I'm just a ghost who's begging for a single solid breath.